Bob from Oregon's Constant Gardener. Welcome to the OC. It's a weird setup, isn't it? Welcome to the OCG Fam Show to you, my YouTube buddies. What's going on? Let me know in the comments. And speaking of the comments, that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to do a viewer questions episode, social distancing style. So I'm going to try to get Scott on the FaceTime here. We're going to see if it works. So hold on a second here. Hold on. Hold on. I'm calling him up. It's you! What's going on? Let me try I'm gonna try to make you full screen here, so stand by. Enter full screen. Okay. Can you move yourself over, like move the camera a little bit so like you're on the other side of the frame there? Yeah? Okay. No, that's worse.
It's worse.
Yeah, there, okay, that's perfect. It's like you're looming over my shoulder. It's like, you know when you're doing graphic design and someone's like looking over you going, no, can you make the logo a little bigger? It's like that. I'm in high spirits now that I'm talking to you. I've been freaking out a little bit. How about you? You're not freaking out. You're stone cold gunslinger.
Yeah, you know, when you drink as much Herc as I do, COVID can't live in you.
COVID can't live in you.
Nah.
Nice.
No.
So, what do you want to just get into some questions, or what do you do?
I don't know. Yeah. You're the one quarantining. You got some questions for us, Bob?
I got some questions for you. I got one from Brian Green. He says, Herc flush is recommended at 2 tablespoons per gallon, but in week 3, have it pushed up to feeding at 6 tablespoons per gallon. Is there any benefit to keep pushing that much Herc for your routine flush between feedings? Teas are not necessary. So is he asking, I think what he's asking is, he's like, when you bump up the Herc on your regular feeding, do you also bump up the Herc on your flush?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, no, for flush, you're just gonna flush. You know, so 1 to 2 tablespoons max. Never is it beneficial to do, 6 tablespoons as a flush. You're actually doing a pretty aggressive feed still at that point. So run your, drive your Herc as hard as you can. Push it with your chaos, do 4, 6, 8 tablespoons, but when you're in the flush mode itself, 1 to 2 tablespoons is all you need to just kind of do that preventative flush reset.
Simple question, simple answer.
Kinda.
Yeah, okay. Tim Baker. Thanks for putting this information out about the line on this issue. Was a good question and answer being Gaia made me scratch. Oh, this is about using Gaia to bring down the pH.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you remember that reference of that question when we were talking about that?
I do, because what it was we talked about he had water that was funky, and we talked about the high ppm, high pH, and we talked about how that affected a slurry test. And then you went into a little bit about how you like to get those slurry test numbers from people in your philosophy when you're doing, questions on the email. And then right after that, I was like, well, what's about the deal about the Hades? Because he said, how long does it take the Hades to bring it down? And you said basically the Hades is never going to bring it down in the soil. It's done its work in the water, and if you want to bring it down, so
gotcha. So we're trying to buffer the pH in the soil with that Gaia, where just out of the bottle, it seems like Herculean would have a lower pH, but it doesn't have the holding power like Gaia seems to have. And I think a lot of people have noticed when they're adding Gaia by itself, it really plummets the pH while still giving it that full recipe of food. Where if you put Herculean and Gaia together, for some reason there's a canceller in those 2 products that all of a sudden the pH doesn't drop nearly as hard because they're reacting to each other. So if somebody's looking to do that feed, they're trying to do that reset, and they're not trying to flush, but they're trying to keep the food value going, but lowering the pH at the same time, Gaia just has better chance of buffering the acids in the soil, or making buffering the alkalinity in the soil to make the pH more reasonable for the plants.
So probably there's a good reason for it, but your experience is that this is what's happened.
Yeah.
Fun times. Jay King, what's going on? Jay King says, hey Bob, hope things are well. They're well.
It's all relative. It depends on who you ask.
You know, I remember going to work and I'd go get my coffee and I'd go to work. I'd go to the Safeway and get some food or something, come back to work, talk to some people. And that was like, sucked. And now it's a luxury. Anyway, I don't know.
Today's just Thursday.
Just Thursday. So, hey Bob, hope things are well. They are. We're doing good, you know, comparatively. So I just picked up a bag of One Shot because I heard good things. Do I need to adjust my bottle feeds to a lower level once I top dress? Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say it being a first-time edition of One Shot, the first couple feedings you can stay pretty normal feeding because you need that One Shot to activate, but after 1 to 2 little regular feedings, then tone it back a little bit, maybe go half strength, 3/4 strength, then start slowly increasing it again just to let your plants assimilate the new One Shot top dress as it's breaking down on the top of the soil. As it starts to kind of release itself, then you can reduce your liquid a little bit. I'd say start about half to 3/4 strength though.
So let me ask you this though.
Yeah.
So if I might be doing, to my mind, I might be doing One Shot with my bottles for 2 reasons. One, I might be trying to not use so many bottles. Or the other is I might be using that as like a little pantry of safe stuff if I'm pushing, if I'm doing like maybe a hard Roman thing and I'm worried I'm going to have some deficiencies or something. Is that the case?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Is it feasible that if I'm using it as like a backstop that I might still push just as hard on my bottles and I'm just using this as a safety valve? Is that reasonable or is that not so much?
I mean, it's reasonable for sure. A lot of people, by adding in that One Shot, they think they might be overfeeding right out of the gate, but a lot of people back off on the liquids immediately, but that One Shot's not releasing, so now you're going to kind of go into a little bit of a starvation mode until that One Shot becomes more available and starts feeding the plant.
So if I am trying to save bottles or use a little less bottles by using the One Shot, I can't back off right away because I got to give that One Shot time to catch up to the whole situation. Plus, my plants are probably used to the bottle feeding. They may be a little more.
Well, I mean, they're all used to being, IV fed, and then all of a sudden now they have to kind of work for it. There'll be a transition, but if you give them a few regular feedings after the transplant or after the top dress, they'll start to activate, and then you can start reducing your bottles for sure. Would
you do any foliar feeding maybe more so during that time?
If I go down to a half strength, I'd definitely foliar feed. But if you're in bloom, then I would.
Well, I'd get bloom. You couldn't.
No, it wouldn't ever hurt to keep the foliar feeding going.
Okay, but only if you're in veg because you don't want to be spraying your flower.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe back off a little bit on bloom chaos at that time, just so you can get everything to acclimate, get that release rate, and then start pumping them full of food again. But back off on chaos at least a half strength, if not just turn it off for a couple, 2 to 3 feedings.
Couldn't hurt to turn chaos off and back on again kind of situation over a...
No, not for that, because you don't want to freak them out by giving them chaos when they don't have enough calcium to take up, so...
Okay. Kurt's Review 2020. Hey, Bob and Scott, my question, does nectar contribute to salt buildup? Is that why people water to runoff with synthetics? 2 questions there, kind of.
Well, yeah, and basically, everything in the soil contributes to salt buildup because we're feeding these microbial bodies that are digesting the material in the soil. So generally, anytime, even with pure, no-till, water-only soils, you can have salt buildups because the organic matter built into the potting medium as it's breaking down, converts into a salt or an acid or an enzyme or such. So yes, I mean, there will be salts, but it's not nearly at the level where the synthetic growers would see a buildup in their medium. So they do like to water to runoff so that they don't have nearly the buildup collectively building up on itself. Where ours, you can kind of feed them less volume more frequently without having that salt buildup, but you still have a microbial body in there that are digesting organic matter, creating salts. So that's why we do that preventative Herculean flush, is to let the microbes do all their things, eat all the digested foods, break all that down, and then that preventative flush just kind of ties up that excess salt and pulls it away from the root zone so you don't have any massive salt buildup.
So when we're talking synthetic nutrients, a lot of times they are made from salt, like sea salt.
Oh, mineral salts.
Yeah, I mean, they are salt, whereas the more natural things are salts, but...
Well, yeah. As they're being, organic matter being built up is I mean, there's salt in us. There's salt in everything.
Yeah.
So, you know, but as those break down and the plants absorb that salt, they love it. But whatever's left behind just builds up.
Gotcha. Okay. We're rolling along. We're rolling. Okay. Ramel Tyrrell. What about planting outdoors in the right time and temperature you need? What about planting outdoors in the right time, a temperature you need to start? He must have done that on his phone. So what's the temperature for starting your stuff?
Just to I don't know, to transplant outside, to start them, like plant a cannabis seed outdoors or vegetable seed. I guess that's it.
Well, let's talk about what the logic is. I mean, you don't want to plant them tomorrow and next week it freezes, but with what we're usually talking about planting, you want to get in as early as you can so you can not have to go as late as you need to go in case if you have to deal with rain at the end of the thing when you got flower out. Is that the logic?
Is that the sun is going to dictate flowering time, and then your genetics dictate the length. So if you're outdoors and your flower response starts in the end of July, you got 8 weeks, doesn't matter. I mean, you can start them in January, 8 weeks of flowering is 8 weeks of flowering. So a lot of people will do, light depth. They'll trigger their flowering response, get them outdoors right at the flowering cycle. So that way they have exactly 6 to 8 weeks from the waning of light. To go out safely though, like, I don't plant seeds of cannabis outdoors directly sown outdoors, because there's just too many variables that can kill them. But you start them indoors underneath fluorescent lighting. If you have a veg light, veg them for a minute indoors. What I like to do is make sure that my nights for at least 6 to 10 days are no lower than 50 degrees. So if my nights are like 50, let's say even 48 to 50 degrees where I can even keep them covered, I'll put them out then. But if it looks like, low 40s are coming, I wouldn't put them out, because that'll stunt them and shock them before they even start to veg.
Okay, so we certainly don't want to put them out if it's going to freeze. We don't want to put them out if it's going to get too low in temperature. So we're looking for when we think the weather has turned.
Yeah.
What about the solar cycle of the seasons and stuff, as far as how much sun per day and stuff? Is that an issue as well, or is it just the temperature?
It will be. Most people don't realize. I mean, we get this every year in end of June. I put my plants outside, now they're all flowering, but then the light is still gaining because we haven't hit summer solstice yet. So plants naturally, when they go from your 20 hours of light in your house and you take them outdoors and there's only 16 hours of fucking sunlight, it's going to trigger the flowering response. But because the time is gaining, often they'll show the signs of what sex they are, then they'll revert back to vegetative growth. Then when the natural solstice light cycle converts or flips, then the plant will naturally go back into a bloom cycle. So, it's not the end of the world if your plants start to flower when you first go outdoors. A lot of people just keep them on their heavy vegetative feeding cycles to keep them growing, and as soon as solstice hits, they'll start to re-flower again. But the root zone temperature is so critical that if you put them out and the ground is cold, the roots just stop absorbing, and then you can run into all sorts of issues from starvation, nutrient deficiencies, and worse, people keep watering these plants when they're cold and they're not drinking, so you're actually waterlogging the soil around them, and then you end up with root rot. And I'll tell you, I've seen so many yields completely destroyed and decimated by trying to get them out too early and then watering them too heavy when they're not absorbing it because the root zone's too cold.
So if everything did work out in your favor, is there an advantage to going out earlier than solstice?
Well, yeah, because you get these huge plants that, if you got huge plants and when you start flowering and then they turn over, it's the difference between a 5-pounder and a 25-pounder. That ain't happening for you, but if that's the case, it's the bigger they are when they get switched over, the bigger that flowering monster is going to be.
So, is there a point where my plant is inside and I'm growing it inside and it's getting so big or something's happening that I really have to transplant it, or I won't be able to transplant it? Does it get too late to transplant it if it gets too big, too mature?
It just becomes a pain in the butt to try to move it, So generally, as long as you're taking whatever you have, let's say you've been indoors for 6 months in a like 40-gallon pot, it's going to be pretty root bound. So you're going to want to open up that root zone. You're going to really want to tease it to go out into the new soil that you put it outdoors. But basically, as long as your transplanting practice is healthy, I mean, just a good transplant practice, you shouldn't have an issue for how big they are if they go outside big.
So why wouldn't I just stay indoors? Because I'm not going to get a tree if I stay indoors. Is the issue, right?
That's called the sun. It's free. It's bright.
So it's
you don't have an air conditioner for that one. That's called airflow. The ground stays 65 degrees while the tops can be 110. I mean, there's so many benefits of being outdoors. And if you have the space. In Oregon, it's a crapshoot because we get all the way into September, then it rains for a week, and then turns 80 degrees again, and next thing you know, we're molding.
Yeah.
So in a lot of regions, it's the way to go. Southern Oregon, they love outdoor because they can grow humongous bushes without very much fear of all the molds and mildews, and they don't have to worry about air conditioners, dehumidifiers, all the electricity you need to do an outdoor grow. So, and sun grow, a lot of people prefer sun grow over indoor. I personally like indoor because I think people can control their flavors a little bit better. But outdoor has always just got a really nice natural earthy tone to it.
Is it strictly the latitude, like the farther down you go, the better it gets to grow outside, or are there regions where it's better up and down and that sort of thing, or is that a dumb question?
That's a great thing about landrace phenotypes is that every genetic has its landrace. It's just in this region, or this region. So it depends on what your genetics are and what region you are. But ideally, like that Southern Oregon, Northern California, all the way across is ideal because you have low moisture, warm days, hot days, and good sun. The further north you get, the faster your genetics need to be, and the further south they get, the more sativas you can rock that have 12-week flower times because you have the time in the season to pull that off.
So if you're growing outside, you'd want to fit your genetic to where you are.
Yeah.
And ask the people around you. They're growing that stuff for a reason.
You don't want 12-week sativas because you don't have the time for that. But down in LA, oh yeah, no worries. I mean, you have all the time in the world to pull that off.
Okay. Good answer. Good answer. Michael Berger. Oh, wait, stop a second. No. Holly Hauk. Hi, I'm in week 3 of my autoflower grow. I planted them in black gold organic soil to begin with. I think they need newts now, but I'm not sure. I have one-shot granules only, so do I dissolve the granules in water before watering with said water? Oh. Are you back? You paused there for a second.
Somebody's trying to call in.
Oh, so do I dissolve the granules in water before watering with said water? And add how much granules? My girls are about 2 liters of soil. It's my first grow, and I kind of feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Help!
They may want to email me to get them to a Facebook group to help. I mean, the downfall is the. I get this question a lot. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
I get that question a lot. Where can I just take the one shot and put it in water and shake it and then feed it?
Get a quicker feed that way.
Yeah, it's not efficient. I mean, it's still an organic meal that has to be digested to become food for plants. So it's not a good soluble granule fertilizer, or else our lives would be a lot easier here. We just send you a little bottle, you guys have water. Shipping would be cheap as heck.
So is it actually worse? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
What's that?
Is it actually worse when you dissolve it because it takes away the mechanics of it all being together of how it works, kind of?
Well, it's not just making it worse, but you're only solubilizing just the very soluble part of it, and that's not a lot. So now you have a pH water that's probably like 10 because of the limestone and the molasses. So for this person, it sounds like they're about a half gallon of soil, 2 liters. Right?
Yeah,
so about a half gallon of soil. Black gold does not have a lot of fertilizer in it, so they probably are starting to get pretty hungry. I would be adding at least 3 to 4 tablespoons as a top dress, scratch it into the top surface, and start watering it in every time. I mean, just water it in. I would go hit up one of these autoflower group people, or at least pick up, Medusa or Gaia as a food source, just to push these guys a little bit harder.
Would you use a microbial tea maybe? Would that help?
It wouldn't hurt to get it activated, but the downfall is there's not a lot of food in that black gold. So you're working with the one shot you're adding. So you're going to want to get that one shot added, and whether or not you add a microbial tea, man, it's not going to work as a water solubilized thing.
Help long term, but at this point you'd either get Gaia, Medusa, or barring that, any kind of nutrition for them, or
I mean, it's just top dressed with 3 tablespoons right now. Email me. I'll send you to a Nectar group that we can get you with some people who kind of help you get through that next stage. But you're going to want to add that, and most likely you're going to need to add that again in a couple of weeks just to keep ahead of the
keep
feeding.
It rolling. Okay.
You probably have 0 parts per million in that black gold, and not that black gold's bad. It's just they don't charge it. So it's a pretty neutral medium right out of the bag. So,
okay.
Email me at organsonly.com website, and you'll find me.
Okay. Last question. Well, second to last question. Michael Berger. Hey, Bob. Thanks for keeping on keeping on. I appreciate the knowledge. My question is about reading the ppms of my feed. Should it be before or after I adjust the pH? I've noticed a 10 to 15% difference. Thanks in advance. He put TIA, but he wrote out what it was because he knows I'm dumb. Well, you can't see it, but he did TIA, and then he put in parentheses, thanks in advance.
Gotcha.
So he's wondering, he's measuring his feed, is that what he's saying? He's measuring the ppms?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like he's getting everything mixed, he's putting his ppm meter, noticing that, then going to adjust his pH, then he's ending up with less ppms. And that's literally because that limestone, like a flush in our soil, that calcium in there is reacting to things and tying them up gently in that solution. You're not losing the parts per million, you're creating that buffered food source. You see all these people texting me on your side?
No, I don't see nothing.
Oh, that's good. It's like, stop it!
For the love of God, please!
No, we're busy! So you do see that. This is why when people ask me, hey, what's the parts per million I should be in veg and mid-veg and late veg and in the middle of bloom, we don't have a parts per million for that level. We will see a reduction, and that's the chemical reaction between that limestone calcite in the Olympus up and all of the proteins and enzymes and nutrition in there. So when they're all active, this goes in there and wants to kind of react to that. That's why we say add chaos at the end. That reaction of calcium is working, so we're seeing the reduction of ppms, but that doesn't mean you're reducing the amount of food that the plant is going to have access to through the microbial bodies, through absorption, through just feeding that stuff in.
So is measuring the ppm of your feed with Nectar waste of time? Mildly interesting?
No, because the guys who measure in and then measure their slurries, and they do that regularly throughout, they get to build a whole pattern on seeing how their plants respond, how they know how to push, the guys who really dial in Nectar know when they can push it, how they can push it, and how far they can push it. If you're just blindly doing pH stuff, then a lot of times you don't get to see how hard you push because you have no documentation of that. So to me, it's not necessary, but it's a heck of a way to figure out what you're doing.
Let me ask you this. This just popped into my head. Maybe this is a dumb question, but let's say you were like doing Greek and then you switched to Roman, or maybe you added Persephone, or you were changing the stuff you were putting in, but your ppms were roughly the same. Would that be an interesting way to tell what's going on with adding different nutrients as you're going to measure the mix than what it's eating up to see how it's...
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the ways I find out if I have issues is, I know I'm at 1,400 parts per million, 1,400 parts per million, 1,500 parts per million, 1,500, and then I do a slurry and that's at 12. Ooh, they stopped eating at some point, so now I'm going to do my flush. But if I'm at 1,500 parts per million, I go to do a slurry and it says 200, then, man, they still want more. I mean, they're eating everything I've been giving it to them. So it's a good way to just understand the consumption rate of your plant in the different stages. Necessary? No. Good tool? Yeah, doesn't hurt a bit.
Okay, cool. Last question is from everyone on Earth. What is Oregon's Only's plan during the coronavirus scare?
Well, we are currently a necessity business, apparently. We're freaking way busy. We're still getting shipments out as we go. It's just me and Patrick right now. Emily's working from home. What our goal is to make sure that everybody had product during this time, and more importantly, we want to make sure that there's product on its way to a destination. So when things do clear up and we got movement, all of our distributors will be fully stocked. Everybody will be ready to go. We've let our entire staff go, but not unemployed. Everybody is still employed. We've laid off nobody. Mm-hmm. But Patrick and I decided that we're going to keep the products flowing. We're staying 6 to 8 feet apart from each other most of the time. But, we're still averaging quite a few pallets. I mean, we're halfway through today. We've been able to get that much done so far. So
nice.
We're feeling pretty good at keeping people stocked. OCG is down to very limited hours, and all their internet sales are still going. So if you are on OCGFAM, their orders are going out every single day. Right now, UPS is kind of our only weak link. They told us that as long as you're open, they're going to deliver. It just comes down to state, city to city on what we're allowed to do.
Sure. Okay.
Most importantly, our staff's safety and health is by far our biggest concern. That's why Frank and I decided to hold back, continue to get cash flow moving through so we don't have to fire or let people go during this time. We're going to look down the road as things open up. I mean, I know there's some shit coming through the Congress and Senate that's supposed to help us. I mean, I wish I had a museum right now. That'd be great. I wish I was in the Congress. I'd get a nice raise. But until then, we're just here to make sure that whatever they pass, that our staff has the ability to get those funds. Mm-hmm. We're going to do whatever they need to do to survive this. So, we're all in this together. Our employees are our family. So Frank and I are going to take the risk. We can't make them work right now. It's not fair to them. So we're just going to do what we do. Patrick has donated his extra time to come in. Bless his heart, has really helped a lot. I mean, we've been able to get a lot of orders out, so we haven't skipped a beat yet on our side. I have a feeling next week we're going to see a lot less trucking. We're getting a lot of people telling us right now, hey, you might want to get what you want to get out this week because it's going to get tighter and tighter each week. Yeah. But, until then, it's just drink a lot of fluids and take a lot of vitamin C and get your multivitamins in you and stay healthy and try to do some push-ups and breathe a lot of that CO2 in the garden and enjoy your forced coronication.
I feel like it's a couple of things I've noticed is it's amazing some of these huge businesses that did they not have 3 weeks of cash put aside? It seems like everyone was just living for the day, and maybe we're going to come out of this a lot wiser, I hope.
It just baffles me. I don't understand that whole. I mean, one of my bankers once told us, "Hey, you should be borrowing money to buy all of your stuff that you need to manufacture with, and keep all that money yourself and put it in your bank." And both Frank and I just kind of were scratching our heads with that concept of so I have to go to you every time I need to make something for us to sell to our. I don't want to be a slave to the bank, and we've never been a slave to the bank. And us and our accountant, we don't get along because our accountant, our CPA, wants us to be rich, and Frank and I would rather just have our business be open.
Yeah, so keep it going.
The greatest part about my retail partner and my wholesale partner is we don't live cash rich. I mean, we don't live top of the hogs. I mean, our house is a freaking modest. Freaking Frank lives in the warehouse in a fifth wheel, so. I mean, we're not ballers. We're not sitting here trying to see how rich we can get. And the benefit of that is that we have cash flow. Yeah. And we have 6 months of fucking payroll for our employees. So worst case scenario, we're not going to lose our employees. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of people are losing really good employees.
Yeah, because they bought that Ferrari.
Because
they bought a Ferrari that they can't sell for half of what they paid for it now.
Well, that's it. When I'm ready for my first Corvette, I'm going to go get last year's for $42,000 and this year's for $109 because they lose value the second you turn them on. So
breathtaking.
It's not about that for us. It's we have a great staff that we've worked with for 14 years. They've kicked butt. We don't go through a whole lot of different employees. So to have to rehire all these people. And to retrain and re-educate and no. These people are paid all the way through the end of this month. Our new payroll starts next week. We already have them clocked in until we come back, and then we're going to figure it out from there. But we're not going to let our guys starve during this. We will go out of business before one of my employees starves. So, we're going to pay out all we can pay out until we just can't, and then we'll see where we're at. But luckily, like I said, this week was amazing. I mean, we did an above average week in sales for doo-doos. Had the freaking bottle on demand and label products. So if some of your products in the next 3 weeks stop,
very fresh.
This guy did it. So I did. I don't label, I don't bottle, I don't pack orders. I used to do that. This week I've done all of that again. So
nice.
It's been kind of fun. Keeps me out of the house. I stay busy. I brought my boy in with me, so me and him already share our diseases, so we're good. I got all my people on the wall, so I know who loves me. And at the end of the day, we're going to stay busy and continue selling.
All right. That seems like a show.
Yeah, well, we appreciate all you guys out there.
Yeah.
We hope you guys stay safe. Bob and I wanted to get a quick, sorry, it was a short viewer's question. Keep the questions coming. We're going to see what we can do next week if all works out. Do another Corona video show. But until then, we just want to get you guys a little piece, tell you where we're at. Both of us are healthy. Bob's holding his fort down with his family, and we're just going to see what we can come up with in the next 2 weeks.
There you go.
Thanks for putting it all together, Bob.
The OCG Fam Show was pretty good. It happens every day. It's the OCG Fam Show. See you tomorrow.